Okie dokie.
Episode 16.
Episode 16, our very 16th episode.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good one. Finally breaking down and making a multi-part series. May as well get into it. You're Phoenix, I'm Will, and we're here to bring on the questions. But, gotta tell the people where to find us. Where to find us.
Linktree.com/BOTQS.
Very simple. I don't know if we can do Google searches yet. I don't know if we're got enough out there that people could just Google bring on the questions. Maybe. I haven't done that yet. Could be. It's very simple. Linktree.com/BOTQS. You can listen on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or pretty much wherever you listen to podcasts. There's probably more places I need to put it. Definitely talked about Pandora. Didn't do it yet. It's a thing. You can also watch the episode on YouTube. That should be a simple bring on the questions search on YouTube. Hopefully. Maybe. So, Miss Phoenix, what question are we bringing in this episode?
Well, what is Norse mythology? Or what is the Norse creation story?
Yep, Norse Mythology Part 1, because Norse mythology goes deep. And I love it. All of it. There's so much to it. I don't know if I'm sure the Egyptian creation story and all the gods and whatnot there's plenty of them, but I know Norse mythology goes pretty deep. And there's the Greek and the Roman gods. Those stories go pretty crazy too. Might be able to get to them sometime.
Ancient China.
Yep. Everybody's got that's what I was going to say in the first paragraph here. Everybody's got creation stories for how the world or worlds were made and how they end, and the cycle of death and possibly renewal and continue the cycle of rebirth and all that. This was going to be multi-part. So that once. Like we said, it's the Norse creation story. So a lot of this is going to be how we all came to be, according to Norse mythology. Norse religion was definitely a religion for a long time for a certain flavor of people.
I mean, it was like every mythology was a religion.
Yes. And a lot of times, every religion started as a cult first. Even Christianity started as a cult of people following some dude, following some leader.
Some dudes.
Right.
But not very many girls.
You want to start a cult?
Okay.
Why? Could be fun. As long as there's no Kool-Aid.
I mean, yeah.
At some point, we'll get into true crime and talk about what that means.
Maybe in the future, October.
Why October? It's very specific.
Because true crime is like, a lot of people think of it as more scary because it has a lot to do with like gore and like a bunch of that
spooky stuff. Everybody gets in the mood and fall. Sure. Into September, beginning of October, all the Halloweener stuff and the spooky time, the fall, nights are longer. Sure. Okay. Yeah. I get it.
Could even decorate in here and make it fun.
Yep. I mean, there's only so much that we see in the video, but
we'll get definitely some curtain lights.
Okay.
Maybe even get a fun curtain.
All right. But we're not there yet.
Not there yet, quite.
Nope. So let's get into Norse mythology. Norse mythology, a vibrant and complex system of beliefs, offers a profound understanding of the universe, its origins, its inhabitants, and its ultimate destiny. Rooted in the ancient traditions of Scandinavia and Germanic peoples, these myths provided a comprehensive worldview for the Vikings and continue to captivate audiences worldwide.
Our understanding of Norse mythology is primarily derived from a few select written sources, most notably compiled in medieval Iceland, centuries after the pre-Christian beliefs were actively practiced. These foundational texts include Snorri Sturluson,
Yep. Prose Edda,
the anonymous poetic Edda, and various Icelandic sagas.
Snorri Sturluson.
Snorri. That sounds like a Seven Dwarfs name.
Yep. This guy lived long time ago. And he's the one that went around and tried to collect all the stories of the Norse people, the Vikings, the Danes, and all of them. Trying to collect all the stories because it was kind of broken up. So there would be tribes and patches of people that had some of the story, and then these other people had some different parts of the story, and he just kind of tried to bring everything together into one comprehensive, easy story, easy thing to learn about the Norse people. But, well, I'll read the next one and then I'll say my opinion on Mr. Sturluson. The Prose Edda, penned around 1220 CE by the Icelandic chieftain, poet, and historian Snorri Sturluson, stands as the most comprehensive and explicit record of Germanic mythology. Sturluson's work was ingeniously crafted as a textbook on poetics, designed to instruct young skalds, court poets, in complex meters and to provide a framework for understanding mythological allusions in a Christianized era. This clever approach allowed for the preservation of pagan narratives within a society increasingly influenced by Christianity, preventing their outright suppression. The section, Gifalgening, the Beguiling of Gylfi, I think that's how you pronounce it, Gifalgening, is particularly crucial for modern readers as it systematically recounts the Norse myths from creation to Ragnarok through a dialogue. The very idea of arranging divinities into a structured pantheon, as commonly understood today, is largely a construct found within the Prose Edda. This suggests that the systematic organization of gods might be a later, more structured interpretation rather than a direct reflection of earlier, more fluid, pre-Christian beliefs. Now, my opinion of Snorri Sturluson is I don't know, maybe it's kind of my conspiracy brain. Like, he gathered all these stories and then he started teaching them in kind of a preacher, a pastor, a Christian teacher kind of way. And it almost seems to me that he was, like it said, he didn't want to outright suppress the pagan beliefs, the Norse beliefs, and all their practices, but he was kind of persuading them to only do those things sometimes. Do the Christian things, but do your things sometimes. So we're going to do a little bit of this stuff. We'll do less of that stuff. I don't think it was an outright suppression, but he was like placating the Norse people. Come on, you can still do your stuff, but why don't you do some of our stuff too? Then slowly, their stuff didn't quite fade away. Because we still practice weird pagan traditions that people are like, oh, pagan, blah. We chop down a tree and put it in our house for Christmas. That's one of the most pagan things you can do.
And we decorate it.
Right. Very pagan. But, People have their opinions and all that for whatever.
And then modern times, we have a big fat man in a red suit.
Commercialization. And the Viking and Norse stuff is definitely commercialized too. Your mother and I watched the Viking show, and ran for multiple seasons. The story of Ragnar Lothbrok. He was a leader in Norway. I don't think he ever became king of Norway, king-ish, like king of tribes in Norway, and he really open communications with the English people, people of England, people of Britain. It wasn't Britain yet, but it was multiple kingdoms within those lands. But he really Kingdom. Eventually. But he helped open communications, but he was also savage. He was a real person in history, but the Viking show really dramatized who he was. I mean, we could definitely go down Ragnar Lothbrok's story at some point, but not part of this. This is already going to be 3 parts, and here we are babbling. So, Snorri Sturluson, I feel like he was goodish intentions, but his bigger goal was to drive them away from the real pagan stuff and more Christian stuff. That's my opinion. I have a conspiracy brain kind of thing going on, but all right. You go ahead and take the next part. Complementing the Prose Edda.
Complementing the Prose Edda was the Poetic Edda, an older collection of mythological and heroic poems written in Old Norse by unknown authors, composed between 800 and 1100 CE. Discovered in manuscript form in 1643, these poems are characterized by their terse, archaic style and often present tales of gods and heroes in cryptic ways. The Voluspa, Sibyl's prophecy, a sweeping cosmogonic myth written within the Poetic Edda, reviews the history of gods, men, and dwarves from the world's birth to its destruction, while
Hevamale,
sayings of the High One, offers the wisdom of Odin.
Beyond the Eddas, the Icelandic sagas, a generic term for various narratives, including heroic, Germanic, and Scandinavian tales, historical accounts, and stories of saints, also contribute to our knowledge. The Volsunga saga, for instance, relates the epic of Sigurd the Dragon Slayer. I don't know who Sigurd is.
Me neither, but it sounds like a Viking name.
Yep. The reliance on these medieval sources, written centuries after the height of Norse paganism and often by Christian scribes, has led to scholarly debate regarding their absolute credibility. However, most contemporary scholars agree that the core mythical narratives can be traced back to at least the 5th century CE, with archaeological finds like gold bracteates, a thin coin struck only on one face, the pattern of which shows through on the reverse face, depicting key mythological scenes, providing tangible evidence of their antiquity. The fact that our primary sources are filtered through a post-pagan Christian lens means that our understanding is necessarily a reconstruction influenced by the perspectives and agendas of its medieval recorders. This does not diminish the richness of the mythology, but highlights the need for a nuanced interpretation, acknowledging potential alterations or emphasis shifts in the transmission of these ancient tales.
Norse mythology was far more than a collection of fantastical tales. It profoundly sculpted the entire Viking worldview. The gods and goddesses, such as Odin, Thor, and Freya, were not distant, abstract figures, but integral to the cultural fabric and daily lives of the Norse people.
Which is cool. That's another thing that I think is very interesting about Norse mythology. That the Christian God seems like a far away kind of creation figure that is all but untouchable. Somewhere. You talk to that one through various teacher, preacher sources. I mean, you can talk to God directly if you want. That's a thing you can do. But it seems like Christian God is almost out of reach, but not quite. But the gods and goddesses of the Norse mythology are like, the belief was that they were there with you. You see a raven, Odin is with us. Cool, right?
And we have talked about Odin, Thor, and Freya before in one of our episodes that talked about the days of the week.
Mm-hmm. Woden. He gets Wednesday because it's the peak of the week. Getting over the hump. Freya's on a Friday. Woden's Day. And Freya's Day, Friday.
Tuesday.
Thor's Day.
Thursday. Saturday, Saturn's Day.
Which is like a weird carryover from multiple religions.
And then Moon Day.
Sunday, Moon Day.
Sunday just says itself.
Yeah, it's right there.
Explains itself.
And Monday's not a stretch.
No, there's Saturday, really.
For Saturn, not just the planet, but the Roman god. The deep integration of these deities into everyday life is strikingly evident in the linguistic heritage that persists to this day. The names of prominent gods gave rise to the names of days of the week. Here we go. Tuesday is derived from Tyr, Wednesday from Odin, or Woden in some cases, Thursday from Thor, and Friday from Frigg. This practice, possibly influenced by contact from the Roman Empire around 300 CE, demonstrates the pervasive cultural influence of these deities. Furthermore, the names of gods are embedded in the geographical landscape of the Nordic countries. Examples include Odense, a large city in Denmark named after Odin, Torsted, a region in Denmark named after Thor, Tiso, Tyr's Lake, Tis, or Tis, derived from Tyr, and So, meaning lake in Danish, and Froslev, a village in southwest Denmark named after Frey, and Freylev, a community outside of Aalborg, Denmark, named after Freya. Cool. It's still there.
Yeah. This pervasive presence in language and place names Australia. Why can I not say it?
We have an
illustrates
there you go.
That Norse mythology served as a fundamental cultural framework. It provided explanations for mythology, natural phenomena, justified societal structures, and offered a moral compass for the community. The enduring presence of these names, long after the official Christianization of the region, speaks to the deep roots and lasting impact of these beliefs on the collective identity and cultural heritage of the Nordic peoples. It underscores that mythology is merely a historical curiosity.
Not merely
a historical curiosity, but a dynamic force that shapes identity, values, and the very way a culture perceives and interacts with its world.
Oh yeah. Still there, man. Still there. All right. Now we're going to get into the juicy stuff. Now that we have all that preamble stuff out of the way, I want to tell you about one of my favorite bands who sing about all this Norse mythological stuff. Brothers of Metal. Have you listened to anything from Brothers of Metal?
I don't think so.
Come on, dude. You gotta listen to it. They might be called Brothers of Metal, but one of the lead singers is female, who would be an opera singer if she wasn't part of the band. I think it's an incredible combination of operatic singing and deep male vocals telling those old Norse stories in a modern way. Their song, Imbliss Saga, which is also the name of the album it comes from, is the Norse creation story in song form. It's so good. You gotta listen to it. And I wrote down some of the lyrics here, most of the lyrics for Endless Saga. So I'll read through those. And basically, this is the creation story in song form. So it's almost like a poem. And then we'll get into the details of what all that is as the episode goes on. So some of this is speaking parts, or the beginning of it is speaking parts in the song, and a lot of it is speaking parts, but there's also plenty of singing parts. In the beginning, there was only darkness, of icy mist and smoke, a darkness so completely dark, by war and death invoked. Sparkling flames would dare to reach across the arid void, and melt the rim of ice and frost that framed it from the north. Oh, the birth of gods, the fall of foes. Oh, children of the tree. Now listen close and hear the truth of how you came to be. Is that freaking cool?
That sounds like an ominous poem.
It does sound ominous. And when this dude has like really deep guttural vocals when he's talking and singing in the band. And it's this like, wow, and they have the music behind it and it just sounds so ominous. Hear the truth of how you came to be. First was a giant, Ymir his name, then the cow, Adumbla. Out of the melting ice they came. From Ymir's palm, another pair of giants, born and bred. Then left and right, his feet would mate to birth a child with several heads. Adumbla fed on frost in all her pride and grace. She woke the very first of gods by licking on his face. She ate away the icy cage that held him in his fury, a man of beauty and of might by the name of Budi. Budi somehow got a son who somehow got a wife. Budi bore and Besla, the avengers of their time. Then Besla bore the children who made the story true, Vili, V, and Odin, who created me and you. 3 were the brothers, 3 were the gods, in a world of giants, conspiring how to turn the odds. They slayed the very oldest, the one who was the first. Within the flowing blood, every giant was submerged. These waters of decay would never cease to flow, creating every sea and every river that we know. And while the giants drowned, the gods got the idea to take the corpse of Ymir and make the earth appear. His body would become the soil, his skull became the sky, and then they threw his giant brains aloft to form the clouds. His teeth became the rocks, they made mountains from his bones, and on the meadows through his hair the summer breeze was blown. When the gods were done, they took a little break, strolled upon the beach to take a breath and contemplate. 2 logs of ash and elm lay stranded on the shore, the children of the forest, the children of the gods. From dead to animated and no longer adrift, for like the fairy godmothers, they gave them special gifts. The first would grant them spirit and life beyond the plant. The second gave them movement and the wit to understand. The third would give them faces, their hearing, and their sight, and thus the very first of humans were brought to life. And it's so good. I cannot recommend Brothers of Metal enough. They just released their 3rd album, I think early this year. And it's all like Viking stories and Viking metal rock. It's awesome.
I understand how I understand that story.
And they sing it much faster, and they have all the music behind it, but it's the whole story's there. It's amazing.
Yeah.
You'll have to check it out. Well, you want to do the Norse creation myth paints a vivid picture?
The Norse creation?
Who's that guy?
The Norse creation myth paints a vivid picture of a universe born from the clash of primal elements, a narrative that sets the stage for the ongoing cosmic struggle between order and chaos. In the primordial epoch, before the existence of heaven or earth, there was only an immense empty void known as
Ginnungagap.
Ginnungagap. This chasm was bordered by two contrasting realms of elemental power. To the north lay
Niflheim,
a realm of profound cold, ice, snow, and dense mist. It was an inhospitable, frozen wasteland, the source of ancient rivers.
Take the next one.
Opposite Niflheim, to the south, was
Muspelheim,
a glowing, scorching region of fire characterized by bright sparks and burning embers. This fiery domain was home to the fire giants, with the formidable Surtur standing as their most notable figure, wielding a flaming sword.
Thor fought him in Thor Ragnarok. Yeah, well, he didn't fight him. There was no fighting Surtur.
I think he used Surtur to fight, Hela?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. And that's how the Marvel movies did their Ragnarok.
Yeah, how the MCU did Ragnarok.
The genesis of the cosmos began with the interaction of these two extreme, opposing primordial forces, the frigid ice of Niflheim and the intense heat of Muspelheim. These realms were not merely locations, but fundamental pre-existing conditions of the universe. Their meeting within the void of Ginnungagap, where the heat began to melt the ice, served as the initial catalyst for all subsequent creation. This foundational duality, where creation emerges from the dynamic interplay and the eventual fusion of opposing forces, rather than from a singular divine act or an absolute void, establishes a recurring theme of tension and balance that permeates the entire Norse cosmology. This suggests that inherent opposition is not solely destructive, but also a necessary engine for cosmic evolution, setting a precedent for the cyclical nature of existence.
From the melting ice in Ginnungagap, where the fire of Muspelheim meet the cold of Niflheim, the first living being emerged, Ymir. Also known as
Olgrimir
among the giants. Ymir was a primordial giant, unique in his own kind and nature, and the founder of the giant race.
You go.
Ymir's sustenance came from the 4 rivers of milk provided by
Adumbla
as a primordial cow who herself was nourished by licking salty blocks of ice. As Adumbla continued to lick the ice, a man named Buri gradually emerged over 3 days. Buri is revered as the ancestor of the gods, making the initial lineage of the divine.
That's kind of weird. So Adumbla was licking on the salty ice, and then after 3 days of licking, how were their days yet? Niflheim and Muspelheim just come together and made rivers, and how did the days go by? It's a plot hole in the old prose Edda. But that's fine. We got Buddy.
Yeah.
The narrative also details Ymir's unique method of reproduction. This gets a little goofy. God stuff. While he slept, he began to sweat, and from under his left armpit, a man and a woman grew. From his legs, a 6-headed son, Thrudgelmir, was born. These beings became the direct ancestors of the giant race. This initial emergence of life, including both giants and the ancestors of gods, is described as a spontaneous process resulting from elemental interaction rather than a deliberate act of creation by a supreme deity. The very first sentient being, Ymir, is a giant, and the giants reproduce from his body. This suggests that in Norse cosmology, the origins of life are deeply intertwined with primordial, often chaotic forces. The giants are not a later creation or an external evil, but are foundational to existence, sharing a common origin with the gods. This inherent connection establishes a complex, almost familial, tension between gods and giants, where the struggle for order is a perpetual internal conflict rather than a simple battle against an alien foe.
Buri, the ancestor revealed by Adumbla, had a son named Bor. Bor married Bessa, a giantess, further intertwining the lineages of gods and giants. Together, Bor and Bessa had 3 sons: Odin, Vili, and Vi. These 3 are recognized as the first of the gods, establishing the divine pantheon.
We don't hear too much about Vili and Vi.
More so about Odin.
Yeah, Odin gets into some stuff. This guy. The birth of the first generation of gods, including Odin, the Allfather, from the union of a divine ancestor and a giantess, is a pivotal detail. This establishes a fundamental intermingling of the 2 primary cosmic forces, order, gods, and chaos, giants, from the very outset. This crucial detail underpins many of the complex relationships and conflicts in Norse mythology. It means that the enemies of the gods, the giants, are also their kin, blurring the line between absolute good and evil. This familial connection suggests that the struggle to maintain cosmic order is not just an external battle, but an internal one, perpetually challenged by the chaotic elements inherent by the gods' own ancestry. This sets the stage for figures like Loki, who embody this duality, being both blood brother to Odin and father of monstrous forces of chaos.
Well, in the MCU, Loki is a adopted son of Odin.
Right. It's a funny story. And in the MCU, Hela is Loki's sister and Thor's sister. But in Norse mythology, Hela, is Loki's daughter. MCU stuff, giant stuff. It's all crazy. Who do you believe? This came first. Do you believe this first? You just make stuff up. That's what the MCU did. No, we could do Thor. Hercules is also in the MCU, which is goofy. But then DC has Wonder Woman, who is a daughter of Zeus. Hercules is a son of Zeus. Whatever, dude. Those guys. Borrowing from ancient mythologies.
I don't know.
It's fine. But we're learning here, well, I mean, as close to the truth of the ancient Norse creation mythologies as we can, where the MCU is just creative liberties, let's say.
They don't want to get copyrighted.
I don't know if you could copyright mythologies.
Right?
Like you can do what you want with mythologies. Maybe? I think so.
I don't know.
Go ahead. The nascent gods.
The nascent gods, Odin, Vili, and Vi, undertook the monumental and violent act of slaying the primordial giant Ymir. From his immense corpse they meticulously fashioned the entire cosmos. Ymir's flesh became the earth, his blood formed the vast seas and lakes, his bones were erected into towering mountains, and his teeth and bone fragments became stones. His skull was raised to form the sky, supported by 4 dwarves named Nordri, Surdri, Ostri, and Vestri, representing the cardinal directions. Ymir's brain was cast into the wind, becoming the clouds that drifted across the sky. Finally, sparks of the fiery realm of Muspelheim were scattered across the Ginnungagap, creating the stars and providing light to the newly formed world.
Thanks, Odin, Vili, and Vi, for creating some more realms.
Yeah.
This act of creation, born from violence, also had profound consequences for the giant race. The vast majority of the giants were drowned in the deluge of Ymir's gushing blood. However, Ymir's grandson, Bergelmir, and his wife managed to survive on a raft, ensuring the continuation of the giant race, who would become the sworn enemies of the gods. To protect the realm of men, Midgard, from these surviving giants, the gods ingeniously built a fortress around it using Ymir's eyebrows.
Using every part of him.
No part goes to waste.
I guess.
It's so weird in my mind, like living creatures in my mind, and probably in yours too, are their blood is red, usually.
Usually.
Their brains are grayish pink, usually. Our teeth are white. They're not the color of mountains. So Ymir's blood was water?
Clear blue? And possibly sometimes a little green?
Well, that comes from organics. Those teeth are brown, like mountains?
Or even gray.
It's such a weird dynamic. I can't wrap my head around the idea of this water, his blood, his teeth are brown and gray like mountains, his brains are clouds, his eyebrows are now
his skull was the sky?
Right? It's weird. It's hard to wrap my brain around that kind of idea. That Earth is made from a giant.
Was his skull bigger than his flesh?
God stuff, man. Giant stuff. Just roll with it.
He must have had a pretty big head.
Yeah, if his brains are clouds.
And his skull wraps around the entire Earth.
Right.
It is the sky.
And his eyebrows are a big fortress for us.
So they must have been one big unibrow. I don't even know how that would work.
I don't know. It's tough to wrap your mind around it, but we can't get stuck on that.
Yeah.
There's a whole lot of other things that are suspend your disbelief for all the things. Thor controls a hammer that controls lightning and thunder. That's weird. Suspend your disbelief. Let it go.
Somehow, in the MCU, Thor can visit Zeus, who is also a god of thunder and light.
Yeah.
What is happening here?
Suspend your disbelief. Can't get stuck on any of it. Just let it roll. Want to go to the next part? There's narrative highlights.
This narrative highlights a profound philosophical concept in Norse mythology. Order is not achieved without violence and sacrifice, and it is never truly absolute or permanent. The cosmos is built upon a foundational act of creative destruction, and this act inherently perpetuates the conflict between order and chaos. The world is literally formed from the body of its adversary, ensuring that the struggle between gods and giants is an intrinsic, ongoing feature of existence, leading inevitably to Ragnarok. It underscores that creation and destruction are two sides of the same cosmic coin.
Mm-hmm. Read the next part.
After the monumental task of creating the world, Odin and his brothers, Vili and Vi, discovered two trees by the sea, an ash and an elm. From these trees they fashioned the first human beings, Ask, the man, and Embla, the woman. Maybe it means something or maybe it doesn't, but similarly, the Christian story, the first humans were Adam and Eve, and his name starts with an A and hers starts with an E.
Interesting. What are you doing, Snorri Sturluson? Did you just make that up? Ask and Nebula, Adam and Eve.
I mean, it kind of makes sense, because Ash, Ember, or Elm, Embla,
Eve. Ask Adam, Embla Eve, Ash, Elm. I don't know.
It works.
Correlation is not causation, but there's some kind of correlation.
Maybe it's just a big old coincidence. Maybe it's not.
Just like that, huh? Just a big coincidence.
And it's a possibility.
Oh, we got through this faster than I thought. But that's okay. We'll leave this episode this long because the next one's going to be just as long as this or longer. But there's one more part here, and then we can chat and end this episode. Initially, these figures were mere husks, devoid of thought or emotion. However, three Asgardian deities, often interpreted as Odin, Vili, and V, or other gods, depending on the source, viewed them with vital qualities, sense, desire, and intelligence, bringing humanity to life. This act established a direct, intimate connection between humanity and the divine. However, their creation occurs within a world already defined by the conflict between gods and giants, necessitating divine protection, symbolized by the fortress built by Ymir's eyebrows. This positions humanity, Midgard, as a central, yet inherently vulnerable component of the Norse cosmos. Humans are recipients of divine gifts, but they exist in a precarious middle enclosure, constantly exposed to the wild forces of Jotunheim and encircled by the monstrous Jormungandr. Their existence highlights the gods' roles as benevolent protectors of order, but also underscores the persistent dangers of a world born from and surrounded by chaos. That's going to be the end of part 1. So we got through all creation, up through humans, and parts of the realms. So we talked about Niflheim, Muspelheim, Midgard, and there's 9 realms in total. And that's where we will pick up the next episode, is talking about the 9 realms and their inhabitants. And that's probably going to be closer to an hour-long episode.
Yeah, this one's only about 40-ish minutes.
That's okay.
Yeah. Some short, some long.
Yep. Because I think the next one's going to be long. It might only take us 3 parts to do this. Because it'll be the 9 realms, and then depending on how long it takes to do the 9 realms and their inhabitants, then we'll get into the various stories of the gods, like all the different adventures Thor, maybe not all of them, a lot of the adventures that Thor and Loki get into, and Odin.
Maybe all of Loki's children.
Yes. Maybe in the next episode or the final episode. Maybe the final episode will just be all the chaos that happens at Ragnarok. We'll see. We'll see how long it takes us to do the 9 realms. Because there's a lot of stuff that happens. Loki is a jerk the whole time. Thor has all kinds of crazy adventures. Part of Loki being a jerk. Odin, we got to talk about how he lost his eye, why he lost his eye. We'll get into that.
Shows that in the MCU. He has just one eye.
Yep. So that'll be a story. We've got to talk about the differences between the Aesir gods and the Vanir gods. They're a little bit different.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of ground to cover. And we've only just started. This will take us out through, as long as we do the episodes back to back to back. We don't have any craziness happen, and we can do these episodes. We'll get through Norse mythology by the middle of July. And then we'll figure out what's next from there.
Yep. Maybe another Who. Maybe another mythology.
Maybe a cryptid.
Who knows?
Oh, Loki. There's a lot of stuff going on with Loki now that I think about it. We mentioned Jormungandr, which is another of Loki's kids. He had a bunch of offspring.
I know a couple.
Who?
I know the one, because you've told me stories about them. I know Hela.
Mm-hmm.
There's that 6-legged, 8-legged? Fire horse.
Mm-hmm. Sleipnir.
Yes. And then the giant sea serpent.
Jormungandr.
I can't really think of any more. But I'm sure you've told me. Or, that big old wolf.
Fenrir.
Fenrir.
Yep. Oh, and him and Tyr have it out. That's a good one too. Yeah. This might be 4 parts. Because Fenrir has a deep story. Him and Tyr have a deep story together. Huh. Yeah. Well, what is Norse creation? Question brought.
Question answered.
My button's waking up. A production of Wayward Things Network.